this is J.N.S with Nakhti University. Happy Friday. Stimulate your mind, Craig. I'm just kidding, but happy Friday nonetheless. I hope you guys had a great week and that life is loving you, that you are loving life rather. And so we are here to discuss um a topic that was on my mind for like the last 2 weeks. And so as you see the title of the video, should one become obsessed with money? And so we're going to talk about like, we're going to unpack that, but we're going to be taking it from like the lens of just like an esoteric deep dive into the verse. What is this verse? It's the love of money is the root of all evil. And so we want to unpack that, from a very like sociological lens. And so that's what we're doing today. I actually pre-recorded some of my thoughts using my like one of my recorders as I was just like uh, cleaning up and getting my day started earlier. And so sometimes if I'm moving around or can't focus on like the actual stream, I'll just record it with another device and then just replay it. And so that's what we'll do. It's a couple of satsangs. And then the second topic is why satanic ritual abuse is being relabeled as narcissism and sadism. And so we're going to talk about that as well. And that's going to be in the second half. And so what I'll do is I'll share my screen so that you guys can see the sex song. Then we'll commence to play. Just make sure that. Okay, so on Rumble, it's already sharing, so that's good. What we'll do is I think I'll just play it here because it's already pre-recorded, so it should, you know what I mean? It should play. So the first part of this set song is it okay to be obsessed with money? And what is like the actual meaning of the love of money is the root of all evil? Like we really want to break that down. It's like it's a cliche term. Well, it's actual Bible verse, but people say it in a very cliche manner. I've been hearing it my whole life. And there was actually like uh two different variations of this verse that I heard growing up. The first one was, "For the love of money is the root of all evil," and then it was, uh, "The love of money is the root of all evil." And so, you just want to unpack that. Like, what constitutes at least the biblical definition of evil? And it said so. We do have to go back to Genesis with the knowledge of the tree of knowledge, or the tree that gives you gnosis into good and evil. So it's in order to unpack that from the original definition of what that meant, and it is I would say quite esoteric. And so um once we'll get done with the breakdown, I think people will understand like that concept, like the people who defend it and then the people who don't believe that. The people who believe quite the opposite. We're also going to talk about like the difference between the scarcity and abundance mindset. Um, can that be inherently tied to fiat currency, or is it tied to your kinetic energy? And so we'll break that down. And so that is what we'll play right now. Let me
Hello, this is J.N.S with Nakhti University. And so I wanted to discuss, this topic of like, how we view money, and is it okay to be obsessed with money, and public perception around, fiat currency and what it means in terms of shaping values and communal society at large. And so, when we talk about like this verse, they say that the root of the love of money is the root of all evil. And so I want to unpack that. It's not a matter of like, okay, whether I lend credence to the validity of the Bible verse or not, but I do want to unpack it on a very high level, on a very objective level. I'm gonna try to be, excuse me, I'm just drinking a swig of water, objective as possible. But I do want to break down, just my perspective on, you know, this verse, you know, they say that the love of money is the root of all evil. And so we have to unpack that and break that down. Now, we come from, I'll just speak for myself, you know, coming from an old order of priestess who know that the frequency of obsession of any kind in terms of evolution of soul usually leads to compulsiveness. So when we say, is it okay to be obsessed with money? I would say just objectively, no, because obsession with anything usually leads to some sort of compulsiveness, which leads to a lack of control, generally speaking. And so if you get into the frequency of obsession, whether it be money, whether it be sex, whether it be food, whether it be drugs, any of the vices, the frequency of obsession itself, that doesn't mean that we don't deal with, you know, I'm not here to make it seem like I'm perfect and I've never dealt with a compulsive thought. That's not what the point of what you should take from this. We're just literally talking objectively as humans, like having a high level discussion about some shit as it relates to money. But anytime you say like, okay, well, you have to be obsessed with money or you have to, you know, to get money, the frequency of anything you obsess over leads to compulsiveness, which leads to lack of control, generally speaking. And lack of control breeds certain low frequency. So when we say that the love of money is the root of all evil, when we think about like the knowledge of, when we think about what it means, what evil means, going back to the so-called fall of Eden and the fall of man, in terms of the tree of becoming aware of knowledge and evil, or good and evil, we're talking about the state of descending due to senses and pleasure and desires. So we have knowledge. You have when we talk about like you eat from the tree of knowledge and you become like God and be aware of good and evil. We're talking about obviously the contrast and duality from splitting yourself from bliss consciousness into this egoic taxonomy, as you know, as an individual. But not only that, the pleasures and the desires and the sentience that comes with that, the awareness of consciousness, and how that breeds, so to speak, what we call a duality. Now, the duality of bliss consciousness, or the duality of love, or the duality of, or the opposites rather, the contrast rather, is this term that we call evil. Now, evil just means pain. Anything that we don't derive pleasure from, or that you arrive too much pleasure from, brings pain. Even overindulgence and obsession, even obsession with overindulgence or obsession with pleasure brings pain. It's a very fine line between pleasure and pain. Now, when we talk even about good and evil, usually what good means is what makes you feel good, or what you like, or what you can take, or what you agree with. And what's evil is what you consider backwards, or what you consider painful, or what you consider not good for you, or what you don't agree with. So when one says that money, the love of money is the root of all evil, evil in its very basic sense is an auspicious energy that is backwards to the higher self, or pain. And so the love of money is the root of all evil, is the root of pain. It's because of the inevitable of frequency it produces. So when we break down, where your love go, where your energy goes, know that everything is love. But when you focus your particular finite love within, when we say it could be infinite, but we have a finite physicality in this flesh, right? In your human body. When you say that, the love of money is the root of all pain, it's because of the lack of the obsession with it breeds a lack of control. That opens the door, the portal, so to speak, to the low frequency. Now, it's an inevitable frequency that it produces, not just for the individual, but even for the people surrounding the individual. So say you have a love of money, you come into a lot of money, or you do certain things just to get the money, right? If you have an obsession with money, you probably would do anything for money. That causes pain. Whether you have to sacrifice a family member, that causes pain. That is the root of all evil, the root of all pain, the root of all backwardsness. If you have to, they tell you, you go on a casting couch, go suck some, to do this, go do that, go bend over and spread it wide in order for you to get a deal, to get some money. If you have an obsession with money, you usually will do anything for money. And that love of money is misplaced. It will breed inevitable frequency of compulsion, which leads to lack of control. And you will experience some sort of pain. And so the love of money is the root of all evil. That word most likely translates to pain or lower frequency. Like if you were to really get a break.
I just want to pause it, and I do want to say that love of money is not to demonize those who have money, like those that are wealthy, because that when we're talking about the frequencies of obsession, or the frequency that breeds compulsiveness, and then the other low governing forces that come with it, that transcends what you actually have in your bank account. So you could be very much poor, literally, bank account wise, and still have that love of money, and still fall into that category of dealing with the pain aspect, or what we call evil. So just it's not based on, like, okay, if you have actual money, that means you love money, so that means you're evil. That's a very childish perspective to take. We're talking about the latent functions of frequencies that are produced based on the idea of obsession, or the love of money, the obsession, the compulsiveness, and the frequencies that it produces on a very objective level. Okay, I'll keep playing.
Breakdown of the word itself. And from Hebrew or Aramaic, it probably translates closer to pain than actual evil. And in that regard, and anyone could see that an obsession with money would breed about a certain frequency of compulsion, even around the individual. Because they say more money, more problems. Now you got backstabbers. You got you got people that's jealous of you. Deception, people setting you up, people signing horrific contracts just for money, people compromising themselves just for money, lying. Those are not frequencies that will help anyone evolve. If ascension is not your goal, and for those in the occult, ascension is rarely probably a goal, they're never going to agree with the statement that the love of money is the root of all evil. They're not going to agree with that statement, because ascension is not the goal. It's a different outcome. It's a different end goal. But objectively, anytime you become obsessed with something, it's going to lead to some sort of compulsiveness, a lack of control. And if you have a lack of control because you become obsessed with money and you love money, then when you are presented with a situation in which you would do anything for money, that is a lack of control. That can cause pain. Maybe not in the instant, maybe not at the moment, but eventually that's what it will breed. And then even in society, when you see the caste systems and stratification systems around the classes, how 95% of the world's wealth is owned by 1% of the world. And then, you see how they manipulate the public population to go against their self-interest, to value them over their own very lives when they could care less. And we're talking about the oligarchy and billionaire class, the corporate class, compared with just the average human class. All of that is set up and produces ills in society, a backward society, pain in society, or what the Bible verse would call evil. The way in which wars are fought, the ways in which people sell each other out for money, the ways in which leaders will sell out their communities for money, the ways in which banana republics will sell their whole country out to make deals for money. That is a society that will value money and love money over the ascension of their very souls. Now, money and kinetic energy are two different things. You can tie money to kinetic energy, but kinetic energy is not inherently money. And so ascension, those of us that are concerned with ascension are concerned with the accumulation of kinetic energy. And we're not concerned with the fiat currency aspect of things, because we know that you can technically make anything a currency, so to speak. Now, the power that, those that have just the money with no fiat, they have the money, but they don't have the kinetic energy. That is fleeting, because the frequency of the emotions that obsession with money creates engenders a closed system.
Okay, so I want to just give a working definition of kinetic energy. So pretty much when I refer to kinetic energy, I am talking about the heat that is produced, or the work rather, that is produced from your actual energy, where your attention goes, where your energy flows, the energy that makes up your prana, your life force, pretty much. So when I'm saying kinetic energy, I'm talking about what is within you, that allows you to create, to develop even more awareness, to move, to even when we think of potential energy, we're talking about more of the stored energy. But with kinetic energy, we're talking about more so the heat that you produce that leads to your velocity, the way that you move, the way in which you do things. I'm talking about it from a very, very human perspective. It may not quite be the working definition in physics totally. But I do apply this very much to the human experience as a moving object itself, as a moving set of particles itself, if you look at it more scientifically. Or you can also say your potential energy, which is the stored energy, um, as well, that can be converted into kinetic energy. But we all have a certain amount of light prana, or light energy, that is within our frequencies until we die and our consciousness gets set free out of our physical body. So let's keep going.
So now we're about to get deep into thermodynamics here. That's why those of us that understand open systems, we say that the laws of thermodynamics on this planet is botched, or it's my confusion as to why, honestly, there's certain beings on this planet, and we'll never understand why occultists think that blood sacrificing people and children for their electrons is normal. We literally just think that is the most backwards thing on the planet, because you can just generate light on your own if you open up the systems. So the definition of thermodynamics is clearly wrong here, because you must be dealing with a certain amount of frequencies that you understand or can allow in order for why you want a closed system, and why you have to move things up or down in order for energy to flow. That's not a concept that certain beings can understand. And so the obsession with money in a closed system creates flaws within the system because of the way you generate energy, whether that be, tying the fiat currency to the actual kinetic energy of a blood sacrifice, or the way you transfer electrons. And in my mind, you don't even have to tie the two together, to be quite frank. You can generate light on your own, but you just have to go into the higher frequencies. So if a system cannot do that, that is clearly telling me that it's being ran by psychopaths who cannot get to a higher frequency. And this is the issue that humans are having, and this is the issue that they're going to have to face head on, as to their overlords who are brainwashing them to value certain things that are not important, while they neglect their very kinetic energy, while the powers that be steal their kinetic energy and give them the fiat currency, and usually under the conditions of a slave contract or a deal. And so, to be quite frank, this is why our order, when we say, money is the root of all evil, we're talking more so from the objective, not some very religiosity type pie in the sky. We're talking about the very real ramifications of tying kinetic energy to fiat currency that has no objective value, but then also the obsession of one's consciousness on a fiat currency or a fiat energy that leads to compulsiveness and that lack of control, and an inevitable frequencies that come with it: the jealousies, the backstabbing, the deceptions, the lies, more money, more problems. But more kinetic energy, less problems. And so money is not inherently kinetic energy, but it can be tied to it. And if you tie it to it, then that's where the danger comes in, because you only have a finite amount of kinetic energy within every human. And so then you have to have a very clear balance of checks and balances. When they talk about the debt ceiling, just so you know, they have this debt ceiling that they keep raising. Or they could just print money and you have all this debt. Well, where's the debt coming from? It's because of the closed system. The debt is pretty much the borrowed energy of other people's that they can't pay back. The borrowed kinetic energy of other people, soul markers that they just honestly don't have the wherewithal to possibly even pay that back. The system to even pay that back. And so that's why it's like, well, if we open up the debt ceiling, that's them in code language changing the laws of thermodynamics, opening up the system to allow more heat in, so that, to be honest, more beings like me.
So let's discuss, I'm going to pause it for those that's coming in. We are listening to a pre-recorded that I made earlier. So when we know that the the technical definition of the federal debt ceiling is the maximum amount of money that the U.S. Treasury can borrow to meet its existing legal obligations. Its existing legal obligations under contract law. Okay. Now the debt ceiling is obviously at 36.1 trillion as of now. But remember when they were saying they wanted to have to erase the debt ceiling or raise the debt ceiling or get rid of it. That is, in the spiritual terms, that's the opening up of a closed system in the laws of thermodynamics. But for the political term or the sociological term, when the debt ceiling is reached, the government has to resort to extraordinary measures to avoid default. And then Congress needs to act to raise or suspend the limit to allow the government to continue borrowing and paying its obligations. So it may seem arbitrary, because then it's like, oh, the Federal Reserve can just print at will, so to speak. But again, that fiat currency is tied to kinetic energy or supply and demand and whatnot. It's not backed by the gold standard. But when you over borrow, even on kinetic energy or even anticipation of something, the checks and balances, it can still throw the system off. And so that's why, they have to come and discuss whether to raise it or limit it. And that's, again, more coded. But now you know the esoteric meaning behind that language when they say, do we raise the debt ceiling? Do we limit the? That's really what it means. So let's continue playing.
We would be able to thrive if they did do that, but they would be able to get into higher frequencies. Guess what? More higher frequency beings will be able to get into this planet. And so that's why when you see Trump talking about let's just get rid of the debt ceiling, let's just get rid of it, let's just get rid of it. That's a code, because he's a warlock. That's a code for let's open up these closed systems of thermodynamics and allow for, then that way we can spend more technically. But the other side of that statement, okay, yeah, you can spend more money. Higher frequencies come in here and it changes the whole system. Fiat currency does become less important. So you probably will still have money. But if higher frequencies are coming in here, that means the whole system has to ascend. Or else, even if they try to, what they usually do is blood sacrifice higher frequencies or go after the higher frequencies. If it's too many of that and they all become aware of what's happening, then they can still pretty much, the whole system changes. And so that's why there's been so much pushback on him against raising the debt ceiling. Now, this doesn't mean that he cares about, like, me making this statement doesn't mean, like, I stand on it. I do think he baited a switch. I don't think he gives a damn about anybody outside of his bloodline and immediate family and his people that he's loyal to. I do stand by that. But in terms of these, I mean, come on, they are in a network, they are in an order, and in terms of them suggesting that it should be the debt ceiling be raised, it's because right now it's the with the debt ceiling, they have to keep on doing certain they have to, the checks and balances has to be in alignment. And when it's not, you have to watch your spending, things have to get cut. So now you have to cut. And so by that, we're talking about you have to cut systems and programs and rebalance out energy, pretty much, in order to get thermal equilibrium in the system. But again, we don't believe in the same, like my order, we don't agree with the first law of thermodynamics. We know that energy can be created. Can energy be destroyed? No, it can be transferred, but energy can be created. And it can be transferred and converted from one form to another and back. And again, these laws, the laws of conservation of energy, that the total energy in the universe remains constant for a closed system. The change in internal energy is equal to the heat added to the system minus the work done by the system. That to us, the systems are not closed. Our systems are not closed. The total energy in the universe does not remain constant. The change in internal energy is equal to the heat added to the system minus the work done by the system. And see, this is how they pretty much manage money in terms of backing the fiat currency based on human labor. You trade in your time and your energy for your paycheck. That's pretty much the law of thermodynamics. And also in any natural thermodynamics, the entropy of an isolated system tends to increase or remain constant. Entropy is a measure of disorder or randomness within the system. So entropy to us is probability distribution. Entropy itself is a form of energy that is primordial. It's the unknown, essentially, or chaos, which is without form. And so you organize entropy, you organize probability through the awareness of change in time. In any natural thermodynamic process, the entropy of an isolated system tends to increase or remain constant. And then it says that moving towards a state of greater disorder and that complete conversion of heat into work is impossible. Yeah, to me, this doesn't resonate either. The law that implies that the processes tend to move towards a state of greater disorder. See, yeah, this is not disorder to us. It's probability. It's probability. Um, it's probability distribution of outcomes. That's not disorder to us, though. That's creativity. That's just creativity, and that complete conversion of heat into work is still to us. It's still possible. To us, it's for melanated women. It is totally still possible. So that's another thing I wouldn't agree with. And then the third law is that as temperature of the system approaches absolute zero, its entropy approaches a minimum value, which is typically zero for a perfect crystal. This law implies that it is impossible to reach absolute zero in a finite number of steps, and that entropy is minimalized at absolute zero. Okay, it's possible to reach zero in a finite number of steps. That's true. The entropy is minimalized at absolute zero for a perfect crystal. But reaching zero is theoretically impossible compared to temperatures of different objects. Yeah. The finite number of steps and entropy is minimized. So I guess they want this sort of this perfect crystal. This sort of dynamic is circular and spiral. That's all I'll say, because I do have to talk over people's heads to protect certain information from getting in the wrong hands of those with low ass frequencies that seek to harm humanity, right? Yeah, it's spiraled. Yeah, it's circular and it's spiraled. These laws, they're not as interdependent or as linear as you guys have written them out. Energy can be created. The systems are not closed except for on planet Earth. See, planet Earth has closed your systems, and by that means that we're not talking about Mother Gaia itself or the crystals within the Earth. We're talking about the people who got in control over the ancestor technology, who make the power decisions on planet Earth. They close the system, which means that they only allow for certain frequencies. That's why they target certain individuals if your frequency is too high. They close the system off to certain frequencies. Not only that, even the way they understand maritime law and admiralty law as it relates to money and the flow of currency in and out of a system and the heat that it produces and the markets, capitalism, it's all still based on the closed system of their laws of thermodynamics. The work that you do, the heat, energy, the heat that it produces, and then the energy that you're going to get back is usually a fiat currency, usually a paycheck. And so everything is energy. And if you're a spiritual being in a human body, you have a certain amount of kinetic energy. And so kinetic energy for us who understand why we came on this planet, that is 1,000 times, 1 billion times more important to us than the fiat currency system, because we're telling you that it's a matrix system. It's an illusion system, pretty much. It's an illusion-based system. So if you're going to follow the that closed system knowledge, and, it's okay to be obsessed with money paradigm and the occult paradigm, then just know that path is not one that's concerned with ascension. That path is not one that's concerned with the preservation of kinetic energy and the building up and accumulation of kinetic energy, which is pretty much your soul power within a human body. The ability to hone in on those miraculous gifts, your psychoastral power, that comes from the development and the building up of kinetic energy, not fiat currency. And what we're saying is obsession and love of fiat currency, the things that are external outside of you, something that's external outside of you that can never give you value, that takes away from the ascension process. That's just pretty obvious. And so the power that those people have with the fiat currency is fleeting, because the frequencies of the emotions that obsession with money creates engenders that closed system, and engenders these botched laws of thermodynamics. It engenders like freaking out and having to rebalance energy And that's why you see like they were doing, the blood sacrifice and the harming the children to generate electrons, because they can't generate light on their own, because they just are too lazy. They want a cheat code and just will not do the work to ascend, because again, the occult is not concerned with ascension. So technically they can't, because the spectrum of frequency requires to do it. They can generate light on their own, but it requires a higher spectrum of frequency to generate light. And so hence why the occult always target light bearers, the real morning stars, people like Yeshua, people like Mahavira, people like, Thomas Sankara, like people that, your freedom fighters, political prisoners, people who actually have natural light, fight in them, fire in them. Unfortunately, they end up getting targeted, because they have to transfer the light from them to the occultists or to the Satanists that do not have any light, who do not have any gifts, who are not creative, who cannot come up with their own creativity, with their own things that produce money, that produce natural abundance, that will produce it. Gifts and consistency and time and effort produce energy. And what happens with light bearers is people are stealing our sauce, and stealing and marrying and mimicking our inheritance. And because of, for so long, we were locked out of understanding how those rules, the laws of thermodynamics or Kabbalah or the occult sciences, we just had no clue what was going on. We're dealing with narcissistic abuse, dealing with people who were selling us out, dealing with people who were taking deals and making bribes over our heads, and we didn't even know. And hence why they always join secret societies and move in packs. Notice that these people only do they magic and rituals in a group. They never can push something on their own. They always have to join a secret society and got to move all secretive, and they got to move in packs. Now, there are some people caught in situations above their pay grade. They were born into it. They didn't know. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about those individuals. I'm not even judging those individuals. I'm talking about the people who are actually tricking regular humans into that lifestyle and not telling them what it truly entails. Like saying that, Cardi B just solely got where she's at because of her magic. Yeah, that could be true, but she also signed those deals. She also was on record multiple times saying that she wanted to blow her brains out, and that she was happier in the projects in a bathtub in the Bronx before she had got all that money. Them tweets were promptly deleted. Her handlers made her delete that stuff. So how are they talking about one side? They'll glamorize it, but we talking about recent, like Cardi B. We talking about within the last couple of years, like last 2 years. She did it multiple times. We saw her talking about how she would rather choose God over choose money. We saw her. This is a person that she had already had made it at that point. She had already had her hit. She wasn't the only one. You saw Taraji P. Henson just mention that it's just a Wizard of Oz, it's just an illusion. Like she was much happier when, she was a hunger, when she was still trying to figure out what she was going to do with her acting, still trying to make it. So why are these? I mean, she's not the only one. I mean, they're not the only one. There's so many people with the same story time and time and time again. You see people talk about how they don't want to be famous. They don't want. They do wish they could live a regular life in many aspects. So it was not to tear these people down. I'm definitely not tearing Cardi B down or Taraji P. Henson. I'm just using their own testimony, to show how like they themselves who may have went a certain route or did certain things, they themselves have come out and said, look, guys, it's just an illusion. You may want to focus on something else, or focus on things that truly, truly matter, like your family, your children, or, people could go back in time. They would do things differently. And that's the point. It's not to judge Cardi B I'm just saying, like, these were their own words. Like, she's literally saying she wanted to blow her head off, and why would somebody with all this fame and fortune want to do something like that? You see, even people talking about they have unalive tendencies, even with all of their wealth and money. And people are like, well, why is that? Why is that? Because it's not it's not all it's cracked up to be. And there are people that are gatekeepers or brokers or soul traffickers, pretty much, that have to bring people into the system, and they do not want people to know That's why you have to take the oath, because they don't want people to know on the outside what it really is. Because once you get in, that's where you get tied to these different realms and these different energies. And so, that's something for people to think about, when when people are trying to push a lifestyle on someone. And my thing is, they want to trick regular humans into going into that lifestyle. And really, behind the scenes, it is nothing but the Wizard of Oz. It is fakeness. It is treachery. It is deception. You do have to push a lie to the public and have them buy into that illusion and keep it going for fame and fortune. And if you don't, then they take you out the game. It's as simple as that. And so those of us on the outside looking in, we don't know. We may be bushy-tailed, bright-eyed. We have gifts. People can sing, people can dance, people can do whatever, and they think it goes straight dab. And even if not that, maybe you want to get into politics, or whatever. It's the same thing in politics. It's the same thing if you want to move up, even in really big in certain positions, whether it be the finance world or even the medical world. It's the same thing. It happens. And if you're not willing to play that game, you will not. It is what it is. And so right now we're at a critical juncture, where the systems are opening up in terms of the changes in thermodynamics and the ways in which people view currency and people view fiat currency, and people put value on it. And people are just thinking differently. They're not valuing the illusion anymore. They're not valuing idols, the mirage of fame, the mirage of wealth, the mirage of, you can't take, the mirage of fake friends and a fake system. And so people have to get in where they fit in for themselves. Like I talk about the story of the Indian chief who came into contact with the European, and the European was laughing at them because it was like, dude, there's literally these caves here with this gold in it. Like, there's gold in these caves, and y'all sat up there and sit your asses and y'all don't dig this gold out and build a system and build an economy and build, you guys are undeveloped, you guys are uncivilized. And the chiefs were saying, like, dude, we know that gold is there. We knew that. And we know that it's, we know its chemical composition, and we know that it's been there. We know how to extract it. But we were told by our ancestors and by the spirit, great mother spirit, that if we become obsessed with it, and if we put value on that gold and go and dig it out, we can potentially descend in consciousness. Like and again, these are people that are concerned with ascension. And so it's like, well, we don't want to descend in consciousness or ruin. His exact words was, we could ruin civilization if we become obsessed with gold. And so that's why we decided not to dig it out. As a community, as a tribe, we've decided not to go and dig that gold out that ground or out that caves, because we didn't want to destroy our civilization. And so when we talk about civilization, it's civil. And if you think of a tribal communal aspect, you're probably most likely, you have your dowries, you have your barter economy, you have your simple trade, you have your merchant class, fishing, your agriculture, pretty good, decent society, agrarian society, a fair society. You have your shaman class, you have your medicinal class, you have your warrior class, a very basic civilized society. And that's very much a civilized society. But when you have now, when you claim you're creating so much order, and you're building up, things centered around money, I would argue that you don't have a civilized society. You have, a lot of homeless people. You have a lot of people that are in poverty who also want money, and so they love money too, and they can't get money because they've either been sacrificed or somebody is stealing their inheritance, so they're willing to do anything for money. Thief, kill, rob, underground economy, sex trafficking. So you even have even if you say, well, being poor creates crime too. So the goal is not poor or wealth. And for my eyes, is not to glamorize poverty either. But here's the thing: scarcity and abundance is not tied to money. The frequency of scarcity and abundance is not inherently tied to money. Okay. And so you can very well be a wealthy person and still have a scarcity mindset. Why do you think the billionaires act the way they act? Very, very stingy. You know, why do you think the world is the way they have 95% of wealth holders own 1%, 1% of the world's population owns 95% of the wealth. That's a scarcity mindset. That's a poverty mindset. They have all this money, but they still live in poverty. That's why they steal so much. That's why they kill so much. They sacrifice children. They harm children. They harm women. They systems don't work. You got a messed up democracy. Hypocritical society. You look at the way your governance is ran, your government is ran, your politics are ran. Hypocrites. That's a scarcity mindset. They got money. It's a scarcity mindset. It's not but they have fiat currency and they have to be a slave for that money, and they have to follow rules and be in the contract. That's a scarcity mindset. The system is closed. It's closed. That's thermodynamics. That's why you have a debt ceiling. That's a scarcity. Scarce resources leads to strategy on how you're going to get more or take more from someone else. It's as simple as that. Whether you're in actual poverty or whether you're actually rich, it produces a scarcity mindset for everyone involved, regardless of whether you have it or not. And if you don't have it, then you think it lowers your value. That is what the love of money does. It creates the compulsiveness that and the frequencies, low ass frequency. Because if you're poor and you're thinking about your value, you're demonizing yourself because you're poor, and then you're demonizing others. You know, then you get jealous of someone who do got it. You take it, you know, then you gotta, you know, if you get locked out, then you're willing to do anything for it. So if on that spectrum, that's still scarcity. But then on the other spectrum is the billionaires who got it all, and they locking you out, and they stealing inventions and stealing patents and stealing stuff. It's the scarcity. That's why the Bible says the root for the love of money is the root of all evil, because it compulsion and obsessiveness with anything breeds low frequency. It breeds lack of discipline. It breeds lack of control. It descends. It does not ascend. And you close the systems more. Then you have to take, steal, kill, destroy. That's what this system is about. And like I said, I'm a chaos esotericist. I'm not an occultist, and I don't want to be an occultist. I know occult sciences. I know many occult sciences. I've studied under occultists. But I'm not an occultist. And when I assess the top occultists that work for the CIA, to be honest, they have no real power. They can only move in a group using low-grade technology. Hence why they stalk and target chosen ones. Venetian beings, Saturnian beings, Luciferic beings, 125D beings, kingdom, those that's literally from the kingdom of God. As above, so below. So yeah, they internal processes within. They say if you change yourself, you can't change the world unless you change yourself, or you shouldn't worry about changing the world until you change yourself. You can do both simultaneously. That's just a way for the Satanists to get you to have to focus on they bullshit, because nobody is actually working on changing their self. Certainly not the people at the top. Certainly not the people at the top, but they tell you that. That's a ploy. That's a trick to get you to literally focus on your own internal reality, which is true, but you have to, there's a feedback loop that gets created. If you are truly simultaneously changing yourself, yes, you change the outside, but if you are not changing yourself, the public corrects that anyways. The universe corrects that anyways, because you're going to be looked at as a fucking hypocrite, and people are going to call you out on your bullshit. And so you can do both processes at the same time, because as above, so below. Output, input. What you put out, you're going to get back. That's true. But here's the thing. Look at your way your society is ran. Is anybody at the top actually truly changing themselves, working on themselves? But they are still working on you, still mind controlling you, dictating laws that you got to follow, dictating taxes that you got to follow. But they psychopaths, and they ain't working on themselves, but they changing the world. So what that shit don't make sense. That's how I'm telling you. They telling you that shit as a ploy. Because if the real light bearers say, well, hell, shit, I'm going to change this motherfucking world from a real righteous perspective, game over. That's why they shame you into saying, don't try to change the world. Change yourself first. But these motherfuckers is trying to change the world for their order and for their benefit. And they ain't changing themselves. They psychopaths. They traffic people. They mind control people. They lie on people. They steal from people. Where they ain't changing themselves for. I'm telling you, it's a game. They running game on everybody. It's nothing but game. And like I said, abundance and scarcity mindset cannot be tied to money. These are values that transcend fiat currency. Abundance and scarcity is tied to frequency and kinetic energy. Hence why, like I said, super rich people, they'll steal poor people's ideas. They'll plagiarize poor people's ideas. They'll never give you credit. They'll make all the money off, transfer your kinetic energy from your gifts to them and get fiat currency out of it. This is why rich people are uber jealous of people with less than them. You be thinking like, why is a rich millionaire jealous of a person that ain't got shit? Like how they was jealous of DMX. You know, how he was out on the streets a crackhead. You know, I've seen this shit. You see how people people be down at homeless and you'll still be having a person of way more than you still jealous of you. It's a kinetic energy thing. Abundance and scarcity. And they mind, these are the real level warlocks and occultists. They know that fiat currency ain't shit. They know that money ain't shit. So yeah, they are looking at kinetic energy. And that's why you'll see a rich person steal ideas from a poor person. Because the poor person really got abundance. It's just kinetic energy. They just think they self is really poor because they bought into the matrix, the illusion. Abundance is within. Scarcity is within. It's a mindset. Because even with that money, they still have a scarcity mindset. Look how they act. Look how Elon Musk got all that money, and the first thing he thought to do was take jobs from other people, ruin their livelihoods, the way that they get sustenance. Didn't have no compassion, didn't have no empathy for those people and their livelihoods and their families and their children. But he got all that. That's a scarcity mindset. Low frequency, low kinetic energy. It comes from having an obsession with money. It comes from having an obsession with things that just literally don't matter. It can't ascend. And you used to be able to hitch a ride out on people with kinetic energy. And for those that didn't know, you know what I'm talking about. They used to be able to hitch a ride out on somebody else's back through what? The sex magic rituals, the contracts. But those gates are closed now for people who try to use that method or of sacrifice, blood sacrifice, soul contracts, whatever, to get out instead of ascending the natural way. You better stay free because it's up. You better stay, and everything got to be the natural way now, just so y'all know. And I know that God will show who is truly in charge. Abundance frequency, it leads to the shared creativity, high production, innovative empires. So if you have an abundance mindset, then you're creating, you're inventing, you're innovative. Then whatever currency systems you have within your society, you'll have that eventually. Naturally, you're supposed to, unless your laws of thermodynamics is fucked. But abundance frequency, it leads to that shared creativity. You're going to create. But it does not mean that you won't have money. It just means that society would never think that, you know, that money is going to give us our soul value. You're still going to have different, you know, because like say in one society, the money is yams. In one society, literally in certain tribes, you know, the money is literally just the exchange of yams. And then, I remember at one point, black pepper was considered money. At one point, salt was considered money. Yes, the exchange of salt box, poppy flower, passion flower, saffron was considered money at one point, literally money. And so throughout times, you see that there's different ways to, you know, obviously gold and silver, those are your platinum, your copper. Those are always considered, your metals, your precious metals were always considered money, right? And a hedge against inflation. And so I just gave some real silly ones like yams and stuff, you know, so people could really see how this can go. And even how wealth and could be tied to your livestock and your land and whatnot. And obviously at one point the dollar was backed by gold, you know, the gold standard. But there's not enough. But obviously the dollar, they started to print in so much excess that it wasn't enough gold to, you know, when you have a deflationary economy, you have to have a mechanism um, to remove things out of circulation, remove money out of circulation, and then add it back in. You have the balance is really stricter. That's why we don't have it backed by the gold standard, but you could still have it backed by Earth resources. It's just or even the productions or the outcomes that humans create. It's just that our systems are too lazy to do it. Like I've literally, that's why when I come up with the term social libertarianism, it's literally a whole nother ballpark, a whole nother way of viewing society, of the way in which the output, the social class, and the ways in which money gets produced is based. It's a totally different system, because the systems are more open, and then the systems are tied to the kinetic energy and the production, the final production of which a human creates, as well as the value that they themselves exchange it for on a barter, innovative barter of service economy. But then also, um, the monetary aspects are tied to specific institutions and services and outputs of humans, but not necessarily the human labor itself. And so it's a different way to manage energy, because then we're not putting the emphasis on the money itself. We're putting it on how much innovation and creativity is out there that produces, that obviously money will flow, but the creativity is how you get back up to this ascended civilization, or the Atlantis type civilization, the rebuilding of electromagnetic pyramids that move by a nanomagnetic levitation and shit like that. In order to get back up to that level, we have to restructure the literal laws of thermodynamics, the way you view fiat currency, the way you view loss. And I can only focus on that for myself. That's why I'm building the Nakhti order. It is built around those ideas. The economy is built around those ideas. Everything is structured around those ideas. It doesn't mean that the broader society would take them. In fact, I think they feel very much threatened by what I'm doing, because I guess they feel like, okay, well, we won't feel special because our egos are so big. I still designed the system in place for those with big time kinetic energy, abundance mindset, can sort of thrive in terms of the different we have 5 social classes, but they're not based on how much money you get. They're based on the contribution of innovation through your kinetic energy. And at any point in time, you can move up or down a social class based on the ebb and flow of your human kinetic energy. Now, I know that sounds very, maybe cumbersome to understand, or maybe not, but there will be case studies, examples. We'll do.
And I have to say like with these 5 social classes that I'm talking about, the ebb and flow in terms of the mobility up or down those 5 social classes, um, as it relates to not just your kinetic energy, but that ultimately is reflected monetarily. So you will still be compensated monetarily. It's just that the value system, in terms of the 5 social classes, even at the highest level, they're not based on how much money you have in the account versus the ambitions and the contributions and the relevancy, um, that you the contribution that you give to the new system that is based on a whole new governance structure that is more holistic, that is more communal, that is more people oriented in terms of it's a more of a sovereign framework and it's a libertarian framework, but there is a social aspect of it. But it's not based on what the government is telling us we need to do or we need to invest in. We're talking about less taxes, we're talking about less government intervention, but initiatives, state initiatives, and local holistic initiatives where humans naturally look out for one another on their own accord through their own investments and through their own set asides that creates the surplus. So even in terms of it, even in times of emergencies, I even developed a system that could replace FEMA, but it's still state level. It's still more state to state, and the agility of it is that though there's no federal jurisdiction over it, um, the agility in terms of one state being able to help another state if they get an offender vendor, or multiple states being able to offer services to a particular state, say if they have a disaster, because the humans themselves are setting aside certain benefits in time to prepare in times of emergency. And if, say, if one state needs that help, say Texas needs that help, okay, you may have Maine or Nebraska that has already have a surplus of water stored, or um, battery stored, whatever it could be, whatever the good or the service is, grains, seeds, heirloom seeds, whatever it is, there's already, because every state, we have like the state initiative where, um, each state is kind of sort of building up this sort of communal bank, will you, or communal it's kind of like the way a library works, where you go and you get a book with your library card. It will kind of be like that, but for actual equipment and goods and services that are needed. And that can be I would say twofold, in terms of like this sort of barter economy that operates as an app, but also very much still brick and mortar, because we don't want we want to utilize technology in our lives. We don't want it to rule over us. We don't want technology to become our master. We still want to master technology, and so um, again, it's a matter of getting all of these ideas on the Nakhti order website. And in many ways, we're making headway with that. Um, and so you'll see like an example in case studies, and we'll have a whole video dedicated to ushering that in, because I'm a little ahead of my time on these ideas, but I'm almost positive of whether it be a small town or for people. I do think that the ideas will be implemented at the very least on that sort of level, if not eventually, even a small country may decide to adopt some aspects of it. Um, or hopefully, the American government will. That's the goal. But there's a lot of corruption, I have to say, and a lot of ignoring of the Constitution, to be quite frank. But let's continue.
We'll do a whole deep dive on what I'm talking about, a whole deep dive on this new system. And maybe one day it'll get adopted, even if it's just a small town or maybe a small village that adopts it, or maybe another country, or maybe hopefully the goal would be for the American government to adopt it. That would really propel us. They would propel this country, could really be on a whole nother level, like to true golden age. Like we could truly be like on some Atlantis type shit, in terms of that, of the level that we can get to as a society. But we are fighting a spiritual battle. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care if people could say, "Oh, it's just you. It's you against yourself. It's you against the world. It's you against." No, there are some forces. Whether you say they within or without, I don't give a damn. There is a force that is trying to stop what we are trying to do, as far as our ascension process and building of parallel infrastructures that are superior. To be quite frank, we know that they're superior, or else they wouldn't be so obsessed with trying to stop at what we're doing. But again, we just have to know that abundance frequency leads to that high production and innovative empires, and we still would have money. It's just that we don't put our soul value on it, or we certainly don't become obsessed with it. Certainly not become, we certainly won't become obsessed with it. It's back to the basics. We know that through our creations and genius that abundance comes. But on this planet, if you don't sign a contract with a fake czar, they won't let you make money. Well, then we have to focus on our kinetic energy then. And this is why my brother's orders and many other orders, they purposely practice asceticism and austerity, because we value kinetic energy. This is not about propping up, oh, it's okay to be, to be poor. It's okay. We understand that it's okay to be abundant. Like I don't have much fiat currency, but I know how to generate light. I have abundance of kinetic energy, and I have an abundance mindset. That's why I freely just give so much. But that comes at a price, and that's not good to be like that. because you have to have boundaries, and you're in a system that is a closed system with botched thermodynamics that see light bearers as a pure threat. And so, you know, certain orders on this planet, they practice asceticism, which is like, you know, living more so off the earth, off the grid living, basic living, you know, not taking more than what you need, you know, kinetic energy, valuing your kinetic energy and building that up, having a true experience that we're supposed to be having on earth to ascend. And we know that anytime a group of people become obsessed with money, they will turn into sellouts of their own family, friends, and even good souls. It breeds jealousy. So we disavow that. This is what Yeshua did. This is what, obviously, the concept of Selakana, the rainbow body, the Essenes, the Order of the Serpent, the Order of the Dragon Riders, the Hopi Indians, and many other American Indian tribes. That's why you see a difference in the mindset regarding money. We simply can't relate to that system because it is too low level for us. You're not about to sit and tell me that people that are obsessed with controlling other people that are billionaires, that they don't have a scarcity mindset. I've seen my stuff be stolen by millionaires. I've seen ideas get stolen by millionaires, from even just from myself. And to me, they have a poverty mindset. I don't care how much fiat currency they have. For one, they're probably an oath-taking slave anyways. Like, they don't own that money. The first time they act up, that account is motherfucking frozen. And so for me, I'm not impressed. Like, I'm not about to sit and play this game with these okie doke, with these people that I know have an agenda. That system is too low level for us. We detest the fucking sellout who will offer their own kids and daughters for fiat money, selling out their own daughters. We see this, stalking their own daughters and setting up cameras and selling them out on the dark web and shit, like how targeted individuals have to go through. We know that anything can be used as money. Hence, the barter economy is your first economy. That's all you need, because technically, fruits, trees, waters, berries, nuts, they free. You should be able to go outside and remember you just had the fig tree, peach tree, orange tree. That's what we about to bring back too. On God, we're going to find a way to bring this shit back. Supposed to go outside, you see some trees with some nuts and some berries, some almonds on it. It's supposed to be free. Water is supposed to be free, right? All you need to do is know how to make clothes, which is easy for humans. You're knitting. How many people know how to knit? It's a lot of people that know how to knit and make clothes. How to make shelter. So what? All you need to know is how to chop a tree down, carpentry, woodwork, very basics of operative masonry, irrigation, hence rivers, understanding your river. Next is working with light. That's your electricity, which is free. That's why they killed Nikola Tesla. He was trying to give free energy to everybody. So everything on your planet technically is supposed to be free. The light, electricity, free. Water is supposed to be free. Housing is supposed to be free. Why? Because it's supposed to just have an A-frame shelter, whatever, a nice little modular home made from certain materials, wood, brick, concrete, whatever. Make your clothes, make your own clothes, or buy, and then barter in exchange. So if all this stuff would be free, then why would you be obsessed with money? Why the fuck would you need to be obsessed with money if all this stuff's supposed to be free? But it's only, now they want you obsessed with money, and they make you pay for the fruits and the veggies. They make you pay for your water. They make you pay. You see the backwardsness? That's the root of all evil. That's backwards. Evil is what? Backwards. Bills are what? Pain. Don't you get pain for paying your motherfucking bills? Don't you get it pain when you open up that electricity? Ain't it pain when you open up? That's the love of all money is the root of all evil. Bam. That's the true teachings. Look, we've been doing this shit for so long. We've been traversing this shit for so long. Okay? We know what we talking about. When we say something, it's for a reason. Yeah, it might sound anecdotal. It might sound, a little cliche, little Bible verse, but no. My order is the people who wrote this book. We know who the fuck it came from. We know why we put what in there. So that's what the root of the love of money and root of all evil. That's what it means. When you go back to the technical definition of evil, meaning backwards or pain, based on your descension and becoming conscious of knowledge of good and evil, from descending from pleasure, sense, desires. eat from the tree of good and evil, the apple, and pleasure and desire. Yeah, you could descend, and God, gives that process, because obviously we're in bliss consciousness. They're not even aware of your nakedness. In bliss consciousness, divine masculine, divine feminine, and there's a descension process after Eve because becomes aware of the serpent, which is the Kundalini energy. It can ascend or descend. But even if you ascend, then you become aware of consciousness and this idea of desires. And that's why even, in Buddhism, whether you look at it as a gatekeeping religion or not, I don't care. The cause of suffering is desire. The cause of suffering is desire. In order to get rid of suffering, get rid of desire. That's one aspect of looking at it. The Nakhti philosophy is the cause of suffering within the human experience is because of the lack of acknowledgement that all is impermanence and duality, and then identification with the content of with V2, identification with the content while in that physical body. And so the lack of acknowledgement that everything is going to be changed.
Yeah, so in the Nakhti philosophy, it's the lack of acknowledgement of the nature of beats or content. The nature of content while you're in a physical body is that it is impermanence and dualistic, meaning things are a constant state of flux and constantly changing, and the nature of that content is either inauspicious or auspicious. The lack of acknowledgement of the nature of content, which is information, the data that you use to program your very realities, and the very definition of content would be anything occurring within your five senses while you're in a physical body. That's the definition that's in the Nakhti philosophy book. Now, the second part of that is identifying with that content. So not only is the lack of acknowledgement that the nature of content is impermanence and dualistic, but it's also identifying with it. That is what causes human suffering. Identifying with content. So identifying with your persona, identifying with your status, identifying with your race, your ethnicity, your degrees, your money, your materialism, anything that is outside of you, pretty much anything that is outside of the five senses, because content enters the self, but it is not the self. So information enters your chambers of the mind or the chambers of the self, but it is not the self. It is not your soul. Pretty much you come in alone, you're gonna die alone, you're gonna leave alone. So your money is not the self. Your house is not the self. Your car is not the self. Your degrees is not the self. It is content that enters within the self. It is the content. Also the media, the programming, the K to 12 programming, the college, it's all content. What we call in Nakhti philosophy, we call that V2. So I'll keep going.
Changing, and that everything is, while you're in a human body, everything is usually inauspicious or auspicious. That's that duality. While you're in a physical body, the lack of acknowledgement of that. Once you become into a awareness of that, then you're not giving over to these fleeting emotions of pain and anger, happiness and sadness. You're not having an attachment to it, because joy may come in the morning. What they say, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. You understand the ebb and flow, a cycle, the wheel of fortune. That's all it is. And then identification with content. What does that mean? That also calls suffering. What we call it in the Nakhti philosophy, identification with V2. So identification with content means anything that is external of yourself. So identification with money, boom, you're going to cause suffering. If you don't have it, you feel like you don't have enough. If you have it, you got people jealous of you and deceptive and trying to steal your shit. You paranoid or whatever. You got to do so much just to keep it. So identification with the content of the self. Content enters remember, V2 enters the chati of the self, but it is not the self. Content enters the chambers of the self, but it is not the self. Okay? These things are external from you. Your persona, your status, your degrees, your house, your materialism. That's what that means. But let's be real. If everything's supposed to be free, technically, and you got to pay for it now, that means your systems are backwards. And that is the real definition of evil. Because evil spelled backwards is live. So you're not living because you got to pay bills. And you got to work just to pay bills. So you're not living. So that is backwards. And that is why we say the love of money is the root of all evil. Look at your billionaires. They love money. And look at your society. And look how they took over your government, the oligarchy. Look how your politics is ran. Look how your politicians sell out to one country, to APEC and all that. Look at it. It's right in front of you. It's right in front of you. It's on the money. And now these occultists got to try to come to us and make it seem like their system is superior or better. I can play that game if you want. Everybody knows it's a backward ass system. Everybody can see it. And it's a damn shame. Okay? This system is not used to high frequency beings. And they think that we are all the same without doing any of the work. They black out people they would never be able to compete with in the real world. They clowns. Okay? They are the real L. We are the real L. They can either walk away or they can stay a slave. For those that are stuck in a system, that are also true Lites, you either stay in that system or you can walk away or you can stay a slave. For those of us that's outside of it, you have to make your decision too, because they're going to try to bring us into that closed ass thermodynamic system with zero creativity, nothing but AI, nothing but bills and control in the technocratic slavery. Or we can choose our freedom, choose our sanity, choose our humanity, choose Mother Gaia, planet Earth, the sun, trees, which are absolutely living, plants, ourselves, our time, things we want to do, our passion projects, our goals, and those with like-minded consciousness. Those are your options, and that's what is necessary. So, to reiterate, is it okay to be obsessed with money? No. If you're concerned with ascension, then no, that's not your goal. Okay? Remember that abundance and scarcity is our mindsets, they are frequencies, they are not tied to money. You can have an abundance mindset and produce and build under a whole new paradigm. Also, while we're still stuck in the system, be careful, because you don't want people stealing your ideas, stealing your sauce, stealing your gifts. But they can't really steal your gifts, but trying to make money off of your ideas and gifts. So be careful, because if they get rid of that intellectual property, I would tell all free souls, I would honestly say, like, don't create nothing for their system, because they're going to just be making money off of you at that point. That's why they want to get rid of all intellectual property, patents, and all that stuff, because they pretty just want to steal pretty much everything from humans, because they cannot produce anything on their own. They have zero creativity and zero intellect. And you could tell just by the way their system is. You could tell just by the way they treat real intellects. You could tell. And they try to say it's our attitude. Like we owe them our very fucking lives or something. Like we owe them to let them steal from us, because we said no contact with these fucking Satanists or with these narcissists. That's all I like to say. But that's where we're at with it. I wanted to give that message to people, and I had to say that. So we'll play that back, and we'll have our second half of this lecture, and we'll be off to the races for our little music party.
So that's the first part of our series for today. And so that was the pre-recorded that I had recorded earlier. And so now we're going to discuss why they are relabeling satanic ritual abuse. They're relabeling it sadistic ritual abuse. And we're going to talk about why they're doing that. And then why are they also botching the definition of narcissism and also tying it to sadistic ritual abuse. And so this is going to be a high level overview of that as well. And so we'll play that now.
Hello. So I do want to do a follow up on, the concept of societal narcissism and the phenomena of narcissism, that, has been like the main topic of discussion for, where it's in the pop culture lexicon, I would say, over the last year or two. But what I want to elucidate on is the like, not that so much the double entendre, but like the double-edged sword that those from the top are framing the phenomena of narcissism in terms of academic pedagogy, as well as even the the clinical pathological study of narcissism. And so what I am noticing is that there's a blurring of the lines between um pretty much what was studied as a spiritual phenomenon is now being looked at more so as a sociological, psychological phenomenon. And the blurring of that, to me, poses a risk of danger for those who are discovering, that they have been a victim of narcissistic abuse or a victim of being a targeted individual, a victim of a cult or a secret society, or even a coven. There's this attempted effort to cover up a lot of illegal activity as it relates to illegal surveillance, illegal spiritual crimes that have been enacted on people. And the cover up is to simply just relabel, these phenomenons that, those of us that were called conspiracy theorists, or those of us that were literally labeled crazy, we had been talking about these things, whether it be veterans who had been talking about, they were getting targeted, people in intelligence community, former activists, former scholars, wherever you fall on the line. Um, for a long time, there was this, phenomena of people who were coming forward saying that they were getting stalked, or they were getting gang stalked, or they were getting mobbed or harassed or targeted or financially blacklisted or sabotaged. People were breaking into their house. People were doing, there were people talking about that for a long time. And those people were just, ostracized. They were labeled as difficult. They were labeled as people that were just, going through mental phenomena or psychosis or whatever. But come to find out, we got down to the bottom of it. Thank God there was a couple of brave souls, that decided to come forward. One of them being Ted Gunderson, who was the former chief of the FBI. He created he gave an affidavit on the phenomenon called Project Phoenix, or COINTELPRO 2.0, which is pretty much a psychological warfare. It's called no touch kill. So psychological warfare in a sense of where these tactics or methods of narcissistic abuse, of covert harassment would take place against an individual, and they would have no proof because of plausible deniability. They would have zero proof that what is occurring to them. They would be labeled crazy if they went to authorities. Family and friends would turn them in or get them committed for payment. Okay. And so Ted Gunderson admitted that this phenomenon was a real thing. Now, what's interesting about that is that, he talked about how law enforcement was involved, how intelligence was involved, how secret societies are involved, how people who have criminal records get involved, and they pay these people to harass innocent bystanders. Excuse me. And so with that being said, actually, let me get some water. With that being said, there was a bunch of people who realized that, they were this victim of narcissistic abuse, usually coming from family members or even spouses or workplace, wherever it could be. And on from the surface level, the cover up is to just say, hey guys, this is just narcissistic family members. This is just narcissistic abuse. You got to get away from it, or, that's just what it is. And then they labeled what those narcissists do, sadistic ritual abuse. And so literally overnight, they changed the phenomena to from satanic ritual abuse to sadistic ritual abuse. And they relabeled these people who work for, who take a oath to Satan or oath to the occult dark side. They just labeling them narcissists. See, this is dangerous because these are people who dabble in the occult, who deal with the 72 Goetia demons, who deal with the dark arts. And they took an oath and a pact to certain realms and to certain entities to carry out certain things. And they're part of a secret society. They have infiltrated many aspects of governments, and they hold an incredible amount of power in terms of who gets on certain lists and who does not. So pretty much anybody could just get on a list. Pretty much. And with that being said, it's been abused. And so say you had a family member who got caught up in the system, or a family member who's a part of a cult or a Mason or a secret society, and say they just decide to target you, or you pissed them off, or they don't like you, or you said something about them. They was putting people on these lists and oftentimes being a part of their sadistic ritual abuse, which I am going to emphatically state that it is satanic ritual abuse. It is not sadistic ritual abuse. These people have been worshiping Satan for thousands of years. And all of a sudden, now that the program has been exposed, people are coming forward. There's too many people on the list who realize the same phenomenon, the same patterns, the same triangulation methods, the same harassment techniques, to where it is obvious that it's orchestrated, to where it's obvious that it's a larger phenomenon, and that it is a cover up, and that government is involved. And so now you see, the DOJ, they erased the police database, they erased EOC, they erased the Civil Rights Department. They got rid of statute of limitations. They're making this hard for people to come forward with their case, because they realize that, for one, there's a bunch of targeted individuals that's realized what's happening. They know that it's deeper. And what I want to precaution people to understand, that when people want to relabel the stuff from satanic to sadistic, that's a cover up. Because pretty much, I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all. The book of Revelations is clearly playing out in terms of this church of Satan type stuff. And they are being exposed. And whether or not you believe in religion, the Bible, God, that's really not the point. The point is we're talking about energy manipulation and the forces that people use to manipulate energy. And what we're saying in simple terms is they have been using a reverse engineered science that does come from Judaic, Abrahamic thought forms to pretty much use it against people who don't know, who are unaware of the spiritual realm, or who do not have knowledge of the occult or knowledge of the spiritual realm, even if they are Christian, or even if they are a Muslim or a Buddhist or a Hindu. They may not know how real the spiritual realm is, but also they may not just know the techniques of the dark arts to fight back. Or the energy manipulation in period, right? It doesn't even have to be dark arts. But the phenomena of what's been happening has to be rooted in the spiritual in order for any of this to make sense, and in order for things to actually get solved and done, and as far as to get solved and to get rid of this phenomenon. And so when we see this concerted effort to label everyone a narcissist, the issue with that is we explain objectively how all humans fall on a spectrum of narcissism between 1 to 40. Most people are in the middle. And so narcissism is a phenomena that is found, a behavior that can be found in a 2-year-old. The feeling of self-importance, the feeling of wanting to preserve the ego because of attack on the I, usually coming from some sort of trauma if it's found in adult age. And so narcissism is a very dangerous behavior, right? But it is a behavior that is found in all humans. And so the danger of letting these satanic people relabel what they have been doing narcissism and then call it sadistic, it means that they're taking it out of the spiritual. And so you're fighting, you're not able, they're pretty much disarming you, and you don't even realize it, because if they can just relabel any and everybody a narcissist and then change the definition of what narcissism is, then anybody can be labeled that, even when they don't fit the sinister, malignant aspects of this. These people are Satanists. These people are a part of the Mason order. These people are part of a secret society that have been ruining people's lives and stealing energy and light from other people. It's called the transfer, pretty much, of electrons. And so you're transferring energy through the infliction of some sort of trauma-induced mind control, will you? That is not under the realm of sadism or even under the realm of narcissism. That is under the realm of Satanism, and it has always been. And like I said, the danger of just saying, okay, that's just narcissism, is that it blurs the lines. So then you can have somebody that just say what they think they're important. They like themselves. They enjoy their own company. They're content with themselves. They are introvert, and they can have compassion for someone. They're empathetic, but they just want to, they think they're important. That person is getting labeled a narcissist. And then you have an actual narcissist, right? Who's setting up cameras in people's houses, who's putting people on lists, who's going behind your back, smear campaigning you, and they're being lumped in the same category. That's very dangerous. You got one person who may be on a scale of like a 10 on a scale of narcissism, who's just an introvert who likes to dress nice and like themselves. And then you got another person who is literally ruining someone's life behind the scenes. And then what's happening in society, the definition on the books of narcissism is incorrect. And what I'm telling you is that they are trying to relabel the phenomena of Satanism, sadism. Now, sadistic, sadism falls under a line of damn near a sexual, recreational play, because you got the BDSM and sadists, they can have this sort of, that's not, they say they're trying to relabel this like a sexual addiction. And that's very dangerous, because someone having an addiction to inflicting pain or harm on someone, that's demonic. That's not sadism. There's people that are sadists who go to the BDSM lounge, they find a bottom, they find a submissive or a dom, and they go through the parameters of what they agree with in terms of safe words and recreational play and edge play. That's very different. Do you see the lines getting blurred? Where are they trying to turn this into some sort of sexual proclivity when you say sadistic ritual abuse? We're talking about satanic ritual abuse that has been used on children to create narcissistic abuse, to inflict trauma. People who are Satanists who decide to target innocent people, put them on lists and ruin their lives and financially blacklist, sabotage them, copy them, plagiarize their work. That is a satanic person. Like, that is someone that is on the demonic side of things. You cannot just then go and relabel them sadistic, trying to commercialize or bring them into the fold or normalize a behavior that has a set limits and even rules. The BDSM has a set limit and rules and even safe words in which to engage. You don't inflict sadism on unsuspecting people. And so what I want to really, really emphasize for people is to not let them, I'm telling you, these people, these Satanists are trying to run for cover and hide under a rock pretty much. They need you to normalize them. They want to label everything narcissism, and they want to label everything sadistic ritual abuse. And I'm telling you, call it what it is. It is satanic ritual abuse. They are Satanists that belong to cults. They took an oath to the dark side. They are a part of secret societies or even high level infiltration in government. These Satanists. And you have to say it like that, or else you're doomed, because they pretty much have found a way to hide under human phenomena, which is narcissism. And narcissism can be very dangerous, but that is different than a Satanist. You cannot rehabilitate a Satanist, because these are people that work with demons. And pretty much human vibration has risen so high, the veil is so thin, where I'm going to be real, you can literally see them in the flesh now. And so they look like humans. And so what they want to do is go under the umbrella of acting like a human and convincing you that, hey, they just have narcissism. They're just sadistically ritual abuse person. And now sadism is under the brim of a sexual proclivity. And then narcissism is a human behavior that can be found in children. It can. A 2-year-old, you call them terrible twos. A 2-year-old feels like the world is all about them. Me. I'm the only thing that's important. A 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old. They don't have a sense of rules or a sense of engagement in terms of social etiquette. You have to teach a child that. And so when someone becomes traumatized and they become really extremely narcissists, where they're only into themselves or where they don't care about nobody else, that's no longer narcissism. That's like a psychopath. That's psychotic psychopath. That those are people that are probably possessed, literally possessed, or extremely, like, to the point where they are beyond jealous. Like a narcissistic person that has extreme jealous proclivities, and they hone on you, and you know they are part of a secret society, you know they are part of a cult, they're a Satanist. They are a person that are working with the dark side. And I'm telling you, because the book of Revelations is playing out. And when you know what they say about them people who've been, they are really this, but they are not that. They are the what of, of Satan. And they try to hurry up and tell the public, hey guys, it's not satanic. It was sadistic ritual abuse that we were doing. It was just that. It's not Satanist. It's not the demonic realm with the 72 Goetias of the Lesser Key of Solomon that we've been working at today, that we unleashed on the public. It's not that, guys. It's just narcissists running around. No. Because the danger of that is that you see someone that just like themselves. You see someone that just want to shine. You see someone that like to look good. You're going to label them narcissism out of human ego and jealousy and not be able to tell the fucking difference between a damn Satanist that will ruin your life, financially blacklist you, jealous of you, copy you, destroy you, versus someone that's just minding a motherfucking business. Don't give a damn to hurt nobody. Don't want to harm no one, want to help people, but they say they like themselves, or say they just they think they are important. Every human thinks they're important. If that's the case, you wouldn't fight wars. You wouldn't think your ethnicity is important. Like how people be like, oh, I'm Korean. I'm proud to be Korean. I'm proud to be Black American. I'm proud to be an African. I'm proud to be Italian. I'm proud to be a beautiful Thailand person. That's thinking you're important. That's not narcissism. That's just a healthy taxonomy based thinking. Like literally, it's just, okay, some people grouping off into ethnicity and being proud of that ethnicity. But if you redefine the definition of narcissism to anybody that thinks they're important, anybody that likes themselves, anybody that likes to dress nice, I literally seen this in the definition. They are literally telling people, if you like to do your hair and wear makeup, then you're a narcissist. That's not fucking narcissism. You can look nice, but if you allow these people, they trying to usher in communism. I'm telling you what they're trying to do. You can think that this stuff looks crazy. They want everybody to be plain and ain't nobody to shine, nobody to think highly of themselves. Why do you want everybody to walk around with low self-esteem is the question. And why are you trying to change the definition of narcissism? A definition that fits pretty much all humans is what if you allow them to do that, then pretty much all humans fall under the umbrella of that definition. Now you're fighting each other again, instead of the Satanists in control, who have literally been the ones behind the conquer and divide, the race paradigm, the gender paradigm, all of the infighting. The group that has been doing it. Stop being afraid and stop being pussy and be a human and stand up for yourself and call it out, is all I'm saying. Don't allow them to brainwash you and tell you that it is sadistic ritual abuse. It is satanic ritual abuse. These people were dabbling in the occult, joined societies, took oaths to demonic entities and pacts, and made it their business to make money, set up a whole black ops cottage industry of targeting people with light and people with potential and people who they were threatened by, that the system felt threatened by, that they couldn't mind control. And they put them on lists and they ruined their life, where they're setting them up to get them on drugs, sending plants in their life, breaking into cars, breaking into their homes, harassing them at the job, getting them fired from jobs. They have been getting paid to do this. And we know the secret societies that were involved in it, one of them being the Masons, which they say is Judaism for the Gentiles. But the highest levels of that, Satanists run that. These are not Luciferians. These are two different groups of people. Okay. And so when you're going to allow them to relabel what they have been doing for thousands of years, sadistic ritual abuse, they're going to hide behind you. You pretty much gave them a cover. You pretty much letting them cover up their deeds. Also, if you're going to allow them to change the definition of narcissism, then technically all of you guys are going to fall under it. And when they want to usher anybody that just dress nice or anybody that shines naturally, anybody who's just gifted, you guys are going to turn on them and say, hey, you're a narcissist, when really that they don't fit the definition of narcissism, what you're trying to label them as, because they think they're important. Everybody thinks they're important. So that's not the definition of narcissism. Thinking you're important is not the definition. Pushing someone away because of trauma, what I'm pretty much, here's the thing. The pathology that you guys are witnessing, like say like that situation with Demaray Hadley, which is this exact same situation that I've been talking about that happened to me in 2022 with my family in conjunction with the people in the reparation space. It's literally the same story that I put on record in 2022, but it was with her mother, doing that with her, with Desiree Perez or whatever, and Demaray Hadley. That phenomenon, people say, well, that's narcissistic abuse. That's satanic abuse. That lady, clearly, that is not a person that just, if you look at the story of Narcissus in Greek mythology, and even the phenomenon of how Narcissus is bred in terms of unhealed trauma from, say, childhood, or being abused or feeling somebody telling you not important and people holding on to their sense of I. That's not what Desiree Perez did. She satanically and ritualistically put cameras all over the place, wanted to get her daughter committed, got her daughter committed. Same thing happened to me. They committed me for 2 weeks, illegally against my will. They've been doing that. And my thing is, like, they try to frame it like there's actual reasons to have someone committed under state authority. There's really not. There's very few reasons. And for most people. And so, obviously Demaray, she's for herself or whatever. She's not going to take up the mantle of trying to help other target individuals, which that's her prerogative. But what we have to remember is that is satanic. Like, clearly them people, there's some sort of cult, some sort of, like, what was described is somebody working in terms of a secret society. Why are you trying to get her committed, and why are you targeting the son, and why is they getting arrested, and why are they getting followed? That's gang stalking. Who gang stalks? We always talked about how that those had been a secret society behind it and a Satanist behind it. It's true. So all of a sudden you guys are going to label that sadistic ritual abuse and label that narcissism. Then you let the secret societies off the hook. Then you let the Satanists off the hook, the people who have been running this stuff. They're caught red-handed. They have nowhere to run. So they got to hurry up and try to put this. And if you let them do that, all I'm saying is that sadistic ritual abuse now becomes some sort of sexual addiction when you're literally dealing with a fucking demon. And then narcissism becomes pretty much anybody at that point, when really there is a such thing as a Satanist who becomes a psychopath, who is so beyond jealous that they hone in on someone and make it their sole mission to destroy that person, to try to take their light. That is not narcissism. That is Satanism. And you guys are going to see that the hard way, because you're blurring the definition. So anybody's going to be labeled a narcissist now. And so real narcissists real satanic psychopaths get to hide behind humanity pretty much again, if you guys don't get in front of it. Call it what it is. And if you let them because pretty much they trying to hide what they doing, and they trying to hide where it's coming from and the source, and that the fact that the book of Revelations is playing out. So you play them games that you want, if you want to, with them people, and give them an out or cover up for them. And it's your ass. Like, you're not going to get out your situation. And humanity has been complaining. You've been complaining about, okay, they could do and conquer and divide. They tax us too much. They do this. We're not getting nothing out of our government. They doing this to us. People are talking about how they've been financially blacklisted, socially blacklisted, that how they've been harassed and stuff. That could be all true. But what you have to realize is that the phenomenon, that very real phenomenon, is not sadistic. That's satanic. The narcissism is it has to be a demarcation, and demarcation means you have to be able to separate or come up with a more credible definition for what this is. That's why I just say call it what it is. Get into the spiritual, because everything is energy manipulation anyways. Everything is energy. Everything is frequency. And so if you know that these people have been working with a dark arts frequency, a satanic frequency, and using it on unsuspecting people, all of a sudden we find out. All of a sudden they get scared and say, hey guys, it's not Satanism, it's sadistic. Hey guys, it's just narcissism. And then we're like, hold up. Okay. When really they get to go and recalibrate and hide and still practice Satanism and the secrecies. And you just, and now they got a they got a counterintelligence mechanism to where they can label good people narcissism. Have you turn on real good people? Have you fighting against each other again? Because you got the wrong fucking definition of what a narcissist is. So you see someone that just look good, really it's your human jealousy, but then you're going to label them narcissists. When really they're not even a narcissist. They just like to look good. That's the danger of where this is going, because really the final goal is, okay, everybody is plain Jane and we usher in a communist regime. That's really what is the end goal for that, to copy the China model, to bring it to America. And the people at the top are freaking out, panicking. That's why they told you the Epstein stuff didn't exist now. Now they told you the list didn't exist after Pam Bondi told you that it was right on her desk. After there have been trials and people that have come forward, victims that have come forward, 1,000 victims, children. Now all of a sudden none of that exists, because they realize how much people realize how much the government is involved, how much of a cover up the government, the CIA, all of that. They know they involved. So now they got to hurry up and pivot. And since the government is also behind the targeted individual phenomenon in terms of Project Phoenix and COINTELPRO and MK Ultra, and they got caught being infiltrated by these secret societies. Now all of a sudden, they want to relabel it from Satanism to sadistic. I'm not letting them do it. I'm going to say satanic ritual abuse. I'm calling them Satanists that are part of a secret society who have infiltrated the government, who are inflicting pain on American people. They're best and brightest citizens. Pretty much, if you are against the status quo, if you're too intelligent, if you can see through shit, if you even good looking, if you have radiate a lot of love in your heart, if you're a good person, you radiate a lot of love, you have a lot of spiritual gifts, you're from certain bloodlines, military background, Masonic background, unfortunately, you may be on that list. You may be a target. You may have been targeted in the past. You may have joined the other side as a result of getting targeted, to not be targeted anymore. That phenomenon is not sadistic ritual abuse. It was satanic ritual abuse. Sadism fall under the umbrella of a sexual proclivity. And there are people that are sadists. And my thing is, here's another thing I want to tell y'all. They telling you that going no contact is weak. It's for weak people. That, I'm telling you, that's how you know it's a play. That's how you know that this is spiritual. Now they want to shame us for saying that we want to go no contact with narcissistic abusers. And by no contact, mean we cut them off. No more talking with them. No more energy. No more engagement. Why are they having videos out going viral saying that if you want to go no contact with your narcissist, then you're weak? No, you're not weak. That's how you know that they are energy vampires and demons that want access to your energy. Because if we all say no more contact with a narcissist, with narcissistic abusers, which are really satanic abusers are Masons most likely, then they don't have an energy pull anymore. That means we're splitting of the consciousness. We're splitting the realms in half. We're creating a whole new dichotomous split. We call it 3D, 5D, whatever you want to call it. But there's a split happening if righteous people say we don't want to have any contact with satanic abusers or people who are putting us on lists, people who are targeting us. We're going no contact with those individuals for life. And if we do that, that means that our world gets better. That means that their world, they don't have a supply anymore. So they're going to try to shame you into not going no contact. Do not let them shame you. I literally saw a video that said no contact is for the weak. then bitch, then we weak then, because we don't got time to share our energy with no psychopathic satanic bitch. That's an energy mix match. They need our energy. We don't need theirs. And so I'm telling you, be strong. Do not listen to that bullshit. And I'm telling you that it's just sadistic. It's not. I tell you, they ran out Bob Marley's daughter to go and tell people that, and they got they controlled opposition to push that rumor, that theory, that it's just sadistic ritual abuse. It's satanic. Them people been worshiping Satan. And anybody from certain bloodlines that for 30, 40 years, they've been covering this shit. You're not about to do an injustice to the victims just so you can cover for these bitches at the top. That's all it is to cover for them. Because they don't want you praying against them, and they don't want you praying against their God. Moloch, Baal, the Canaanite gods, Satan, which are archetypes of egregores that they created. Regardless if you believe or you think is real or not, they do. Very much so. Very much so. They got caught doing sacrifices, caught doing blood sacrifices, caught doing living sacrifices, caught doing targeted individuals, blacklisting people out of jealousy. They got caught. And we need to keep our foot on a motherfucking neck is all I'm saying. This is a spiritual war, and y'all can play dumb all you want and act like, okay, you just crazy, you tripping. They want you to be soft on them while they still behind the scenes going hard on your ass. You gonna sit up there and act like they just sadistic. They're just narcissists, guys. Let's just go no contact with them. But then they trying to shame you, saying, hey, guys, no, that's weak. No, that's weak. And then they give you a fucked up definition of narcissism. So pretty much everybody falls under that definition. And then you still fighting each other and not focused on the secret societies. You still focused on each other and not focused on the people that got the power to put your ass on list and blacklist you and all this stuff. I am telling you very much so that is satanic ritual abuse. It is satanic. These people are Satanists. They're not narcissists. They are Satanists. They are, or if you want to use the word narcissist, say malignant narcissists. Because if you're going to, and change the definition to someone who's a psychopath, who are energy, a psychopathic person who has no empathy or compassion for other humans, who derive pleasure from harming humans. That's what you got to put. They have no empathy for another person, and they cross boundaries. They don't respect boundaries. They have a psychotic jealousy. Like that's what narcissism is. That's what malignant narcissism is. Narcissism is not someone that just like themselves. Everybody should like yourself. You should think you're important. You should love yourself. You should think highly of yourself. But also other people are important too. You're not the only person that matters. You know, you want to look out for your fellow man when they can, and you also want to make sure you look out for yourself. So don't allow them to try to shame. Don't. I'm telling you, don't let them do that shit, because all of a sudden they're gonna try. It's just a ploy to get you to not care about yourself, to get you to not care about looking good, shining, acting on your gifts, being proud of your gifts. It's all it's designed to do is to attack the human soul. The human soul is expressive. They trying to pathologize humans and label all humans narcissists, while they label you goyim, and then they get to hide behind the scenes and still practice Satanists with the 72 lesser key of Solomon and the Aleister Crowley magic on your ass. And you sitting up there fighting each other, labeling random people narcissists, when really you probably just jealous of them. Let's be real. Or label everybody a narcissist and sadistic, when really the people that's still doing it is behind the scenes at the puppet masters, getting y'all to just still mind control you pretty much, and having you fight each other and not see the issue for what it is. These are Satanists. The book of Revelations is playing out. We at the end of it, to be honest. For those that's in different timelines, you in a different dimension, that's on you. But those of us, we already know the Pacific slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade, and the migration of the Moors, Sephardic Moors from Ireland to America. That was the tribe of Judah coming from all four corners of the world. For those who didn't freaking get the hint, they came from all four corners of the world already. Think about it. The Pacific slave trade, those people come from Caribbean, Fiji, the Caribbean areas, South America, even Australia. When we think about the transatlantic slave trade, those from West Africa that come over, the 3% from West Africa, those very specific tribes. When you think about the Dravidians, the Asiatic slave trade, how they brought some of the slaves over from the Dravidians in India, and also lastly, the Sephardic Moors who had to come over from Ireland and Spain and Portugal over to America. That is from coming from the four corners of the earth. So that had already played out hundreds of years ago. Then the slave trade takes place. Slave trades within the four corners of the earth coming over. That has already that chapter has already played out. So we're in the book of Revelations pretty much. For those of us in a different timeline. For some people, they may not have that revelation yet, and that's fine. But for those of us that could see what's going on, they have been exposed, these Satanists. That's why all this stuff with child trafficking came out. We found out about Weinstein. We found out about Epstein. We found out about P. Diddy and the CIA enterprise trafficking system that they were running, and the government involvement and all that, the pervasiveness. They want to just cover it all up now and act like it never existed, act like you're crazy, act like they're being gaslight, but they want to go behind the scenes and recalibrate on your ass. And what we're saying is the righteousness, all I'm saying is read Psalms 1, that go for me. Because to be honest, God has been also on my head, because it's like, we told you, you cannot, like, Psalms 1 is what you need to follow. That's what God told me. Psalms 1 is what I need to follow. Yeah, we could talk shit about it or whatever, but we really do got to separate the chaff from the wheat. Like, we cannot, when we say go in no contact with the quote unquote narcissist, which I say the Satanist, yeah, you go no contact. You must go no contact. And we must follow Psalms 1. I don't care what religion you are. That is it's just a key for frequency. You can't have energetic mismatch. You cannot have energetic mismatch. You got to be equally yoked. You can't be around people that are not of the light, that do not care about humanity, that do not care, that have made a deal and an oath with that system to protect that wicked system. We don't have any business being around them. That's what I'm learning, and I've gotten in trouble by God from doing that myself, being all involved in looking at the music industry and getting distracted and all that. All that stuff is a distraction. It's a distraction. Some of it is energy pull, and you can feel it. And sometimes if you're powerful enough, maybe you want to shift something that's different. But for the most part, all that shit is going to be a distraction for us that's trying to ascend and that's trying to create a new reality for ourselves and collectively, where we want to go to a higher level. For that stuff with all that nonsense with them celebrities fighting, all that should be orchestrated. They trying to pull our energy for their little manifestations, and they don't help us. They never gave a damn about targeted individuals. Nobody ever looked out for my story. I've been talking about my story since 2022. People knew it was true. They just wanted to cover it all up. So now you got people that want to come out later and talk about their story, and they acting like they just the only person that dealt with that stuff. And then they are controlled opposition, because they're not going to give you the real tea. They're not going to go into depth of what's really going on, because it's all a cover-up story anyways. It's just a cover-up for something larger. They have to have a cover-up story. So the stories that go viral, that's usually the cover-up. That means that's usually a 1,000 times worse. And what happened with the Demaray, that shit been happening for so many people. I know at least 5 people with that same story, including myself. And so it's not just a narcissist. This is a group, a cult that have targeted certain people if you don't fall in line. The moment her husband said that he don't want to do no deal with no NFL and make, and because they were trying to put him in a soul contract deal and make millions and millions. The moment he said no, boom, you're getting committed. The moment they can't control you anymore. The moment you start to realize, but you got to stand on business and choose the side if you're going to be, it is spiritual. But if we try to tarry along with that, because that's pretty much what they want. And I noticed that. And I realized, I'm like, because they keep trying to relabel words and because who's going to associate with a Satanist? Okay, a sadist, okay, you'd be thinking they could be recovered, right? Okay, somebody that do sadistic ritual abuse or a narcissist, they could probably be recovered. But an actual Satanist, ain't nobody gonna have no time for that bullshit because they already made their deal. They already took their side. And so we don't got time for that. And we have to carve it out down the middle. We have to have it straight, you know, keep it a buck. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of controlled opposition that's going to try to cover this shit up, try to make me be on the outs and me sound like I'm the crazy one. And I'm telling you, y'all play that game. Don't say nothing when the communist regime, pretty much, I'm telling you, if y'all allow it to go the way it's going, everybody going to be labeled narcissist, and you will have, if you would get shamed into trying, if you look good, you would get shamed if you're too intelligent, if you shine too brightly, you would get shamed and be labeled a narcissist. That's where this is going. That's why I'm not allowing it to happen. I'm going to call them people what they are. They are Satanists. They are part of a secret society or a cult. They've used the dark arts on people. They've used the Goetia on people. They are wicked. And they will stop at nothing to see the light destroyed. They will try to fight you, and they will try to take you out. There is no rehabilitation. You must go no contact. You must go no contact. And jealousy is incurable. These people are fucking jealous of you. So stop thinking that you're going to go around and rehabilitate or work with them, or they're going to change and they give them a chance to change. These motherfuckers is not going to change. You open that door back up, they will enact a way to get at you again. That go for Demaray and her situation with her husband. You're gonna have to. I'm telling you, that's a no contact situation as far as what happened to you and your mom. I ain't even gonna hold you. She will get you committed. My peoples did the same thing to me. I'm telling you what will happen. They will try to get a gag order on your ass, which I think they already did. If not, they will try to silence you through, trying to unalive you, which I'm pretty sure you already know that they've been doing some weird shit. Watch your food. Make sure that you do your own. You limit your takeout now. Unless, like, if you know certain things, then you can get away. Because I know, like, there's certain beings on this planet, they know that they be poison in their food and all this stuff, but they got it's a whole nother thing. Nothing happens to them, so I'm not trying, we can't go that deep into all of that, because you wonder, like, well, how come some target individuals still eat takeout? They not who you think they are. They know that the people is doing bullshit to their stuff probably, and they trust me. But for certain people that are not going to fall into that category, you have to be more sophisticated. And so with Demaray's situation, that is a no contact situation. I'm sorry, but it just is. You open that door because they want the soul. I'm gonna just be real. They want you and your husband's soul. It is what it is. You could play around and play games with that stuff and thinking that it's just sadistic and then they're gonna pay you and then it's gonna be all good again. They want that motherfucking soul. And so whatever gag order is, whatever you go in a lawsuit, whatever that lawsuit, yeah, you may win it and they're gonna pay, but you better read what the hell you sign as they pay out that money. Read it. Because if they can't get you on the front end, they try to get you on the back end. And they will try to force you to take that oath. They will try to force you into a fucked up contract. So you better read everything you sign from here on out. Don't trust, even if even your lawyers may be working for the other side secretly behind the scenes. So you're gonna have to read it you're gonna have to get a law book, sit your ass down, open it up, and read it word for word. Take time. Don't say that you need a couple of weeks to read your shit. Don't have them force you to try to sign it right then and there. Okay, it is a no contact situation. Honestly, that lawsuit shit, I mean, get your money, whatever, but that could be them still bringing you back into their fold of their system, under the control of their system. So you have to think about how you want to handle that, But yeah, it's about to get real out here for a lot of people. A lot of people have been targeted. Nicki Minaj talking about she got targeted. It's so many people that get targeted. Like, it's a known thing now. And they trying to hurry up and cover the shit up because the shit got out of hand. And I know I was one of the main figures that blew that shit up, and they shadow ban me or whatever. They act like they don't know who I am. The secret societies act like they don't know who I am. They know exactly who I am. And they know who's been causing And it is what it is. I don't give a damn because I know that it's unrighteous and I know that it's time is up. And I know there has to be a higher dispensation, a higher paradigm that we have to cross into and that we have to go into, with or without them, but mainly without them. You know, if they're not going to change or whatever, do whatever, humanity has to have the balls enough to demand a better system and to build a better system. And if not, don't complain. Don't complain because we told you to your face what it is. You know what it is. Everybody know what the problem is. You're not going to just be able to just label everybody a narcissist. No, you're going to have to deal with the people that at the top that's been your overlords pretty much. And the more fear you show of them, do not have any fear of them. For what? That's the problem. You give them all your power. Don't get distracted by nothing either. Don't get distracted by the news. Don't get distracted by none of that bullshit. Be careful where your energy is going. Your energy should be going to the higher frequencies at this time. Okay? The higher frequencies and the higher consciousness. When somebody attack you, you fight back. Okay? Go no contact with any of your abusers, your family. If you know they'll sell you out, if you know they have taken a award, a bid, a bribe to sell you out for the government or for their secret society to move up in a system, move up in the game, cut them off forever and ever because they chose their side. You are the energy pool. You are the light. You are the one that they want to sacrifice. You are the one that they want to take down. And you cannot take that lightly. You got to be for your soul. You got to preserve your energy. Say, I preserve my prana. I preserve my energy, my chi, my life force. I preserve my light. I make sure I stay happy. I make sure I stay joyful. I make sure I put myself first. And by you doing that, guess what? The Satanists want to say, oh, guess what? You're a narcissist. No, you're not. You're preserving yourself. You see how the feedback loop is? You see how it's a trick? That's why I'm telling you, don't label that narcissism. Call them people what they are. They motherfucking Satanists. Call them what they are. Follow the money. Follow the power. Who's the one that got all the power? Okay, call they motherfucking ass out. Stop being a pussy. And stop trying to go along to get along because they don't give a fuck about you. They don't. They want to see you dead. D-E-A-D. Dead. Because of your light. Because you got a gift. You got something that you've been shining. You got something on you. An inheritance. An intelligence. A spiritual gift. A good looks. Whatever God gave you. Whatever it is. Good singing. Good instrumentation. Good act. Whatever it is. You know your gift. But whatever it is, if you know you a target individual, you know why. Now you know why. They want that light because it's about transfer the electrons to them so that they can stay on top. But we say no more. Your motherfucking ass going down and the first shall be last and the last shall be first. That's what you say. No more. And also, we don't value the matrix. Don't value the matrix. Don't value their little dumbass system where they don't value money either. Don't value money. Because that's another trick. They want you obsessed with money so that you can, and once you become obsessed with money, you lose sense of what's important. And it just, we're going to do a whole breakdown on that as well. I'll probably play that first in the stream and then that other part second. But that's what I really wanted you guys to understand was like, it's a slippery slope letting the power group relabel all of these things. All of a sudden, satanic ritual abuse is now sadistic ritual abuse. Now all of a sudden, Satanism is now narcissism. Get the fuck out of here. No, your motherfucking ass got caught. We on your motherfucking head, you wicked ass bitch. That's what you say. And if we go in no contact, so it ain't gonna be no war. It's like, unless they trying to start a war with us, the light ones, the light bearers, Venus beings, Saturnian beings, real light beings, real light bearers, real Christ consciousness figures. They trying to start a war with us. We said no contact. You do you, we do to us. But we got a better system. So we got a better way of thinking. We got a better way of living. So that's why we outshine them. That's why they trying to keep us down so bad. Because they know good and hell well, if it was just fair competition, they motherfucking ass would get smacked the fuck up. It would be nothing. They can't outthink us. They can't outshine us naturally. They got to go through all that blacklisting, shadow banning, algorithmic all this bullshit because they can't outshine us naturally. It ain't our attitude. No, these motherfuckers is jealous of you. Call it what it is. Satanic ritual abuse. That's what you suffer from. A Satanist, somebody that was in the occult, somebody that was in the dark arts that targeted you. That's what it was. Because the moment you give them a chance to relabel as something, then they're going to be able to put that label on you. Now everybody's arguing. Now everybody's the narcissist. No, motherfucker, they is Satanists. And we beating their ass spiritually. We're not playing with these people. Okay, I know I'm on one. I'm gonna talk to y'all later. Love you. Bye.
So that was the recording of that. I was upset earlier because I was looking at, some of the situations with the target individuals, and sometimes I just get a little worked up, I have to say. That's a bit extreme. That's a bit extreme. But what I want to do is going in. It's in a zone. I have to say I'm much more calmer now this Good Friday. Um, and so for those who could just now coming in, we were talking earlier about like um the esoteric breakdown on the verse. The love of money is the root of all evil. So we broke that down in terms of even the laws of thermodynamics as it relates to um, kinetic energy versus fiat currency, and then how if you become obsessed or if you love money, something that's external outside of you, how it can lead to compulsive thinking, and the frequencies that obsession produces are inherently low frequency, and it's not towards the path of ascension. So we covered that all earlier. We did like a breakdown of the law of the thermodynamics and all that stuff. So I mean, we got pretty deep, I have to say. We got pretty deep there. But now what I want to do, because I know I was saying, look, you have to read Psalms 1, we got to read Psalms 1. And again, this is mainly for, obviously, I think it's going to help other people, but this also helps myself. This is also part of my therapeutic, cathartic release and whatnot, just even, teaching and talking and getting ideas out. But also, once again, when we talk about feedback loops, we're hoping that, the goal is that it helps other people as well. They do their own research. They're compelled to do research. They're compelled to find their own answers, to reflect, to grow, those type of things. And so ultimately that's the service that, we'll like to provide, at least, at least today. And so when we talk about Psalms 1, I want to read that for everyone. So just we could just refresh our memory. So it says, when Psalms 1 first starts, it says, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked." Now, you also I would say you want to put your name there. Say, "Blessed is whatever your name is. Blessed is Jenny, does not walk in the step of the wicked," or "Blessed is Sarah," "Blessed is Jake," or "Blessed is Shipoya." Whatever the name is, blessed is the one who does not walk in the step with the wicked. But you put your name in there. Blessed is Jenny, who does not walk in the step of with the wicked, or stand in the way with sinners, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in that universal light of God. And so, what does universal light of God means? Usually, this translates to universal law of God. When we think about the universal laws of God, I know it doesn't say universe in there, but the way this was written in terms of the spirit of the Psalms and the priest, the order that created this, the bloodline of the Chaldean Magi and the order of Melchizedek, going back to the order of the serpent or the dragon riders. This was written from this sort of how do I say this? This sort of, because I don't like the word for hermetic. I just don't like that. I don't know. I just don't like that. I just don't like that word because it's a play on Hermes Trismegistus, which is the Greek version of Tahuti. But when we think about like this bloodline that writes from this sort of, the breath of the ruha of like what it means to belong to a very specific order within the kingdom of God. It's written from this very universal galactic level, I have to say. That I can tell you that the book of Psalms is written from that perspective in particular. When we talk about like, but the delight is in that law of God. It's not the religiosity, say the Sadducees or the Pharisees might have thought at that time. We're literally talking about the universal laws. And so that would be the laws of the universe, the law of correspondence, law of rhythm, law of the law of correspondence, law of rhythm, law of polarity, the law of gender, the law, these laws of God, these universal laws of God. And by all technicalities, and even through its codes, and the calculations of this grimoire we call the Bible, so to speak, all 12 laws of the universe are found in the Bible, absolutely. Um, but that's what that would translate to. But whose delight is in that universal laws of God, and who meditates on the universal laws day and night. And so that's how you're supposed to translate that universal laws. Let's just these fundamental principles, the law of vibration, the law of correspondence, law of attraction, law of cause and effect, law of compensation, law of perpetual transmutation of energy, law of relativity, law of rhythm, law of polarity, law of gender. These are all like these 12 universal laws, and it's more. There are quite a bit more. Because I talk about the law of resonance. Um, Even I would even say I would put even the law of electromagnetism on there, but technically the law of gender should suffice for that. It's a more uh, uh, common sense way of understanding it. But like that law of correspondence, all of these things represent this sort of spirit. It's something that the soul naturally understands. And so we meditate on those universal laws day and night. Day and night. That's the duality of those laws as well. That's the secret code for those who may not know that. Um, Meditate on those universal laws and the duality of them day and night. Okay, so now we're talking about contrasts, day and night. Now that's the yin and yang technically, because the sun um provides this perception of light. But without that sun, you would have that universal darkness. And even if you read Genesis, when you talk about there was two big lights that was produced, the one that came out for the day, which was the sun, and then the one that came out for the night, which is the stars and the moon, day and night. And so we're talking about, this sort of the yin and yang symbol, the little bit of, how do I say, the little bit of dark that's in the light, and then a little bit of light that's in the dark, also representing the law of gender, law of electromagnetism, law of rhythm, law of correspondence. Yin and yang technically, literally, gives you all of your 12 laws. That symbol alone, literally just a symbol, uh, to be honest. And I know it's like, well, how are you mixing that with Psalms? I'm telling you the order that has access to esoteric information, and we know the codes that we put when writing out these book of Psalms. Meditates in the blessed is, you say your name, blessed is Jenny, or whoever your name is, who's ever listening, who does not walk in the step of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the company of mockers. And mockers are people who be laughing at, when you be getting targeted or harassed, and people are laughing at you, or laughing at people get bullied and all that stuff. Those are those type of people. You don't sit around and watch somebody get bullied and shit like that, right? But your delight is in that universal law of God. Your understanding, that's where the morality is stemming from, these 12 laws of the universe. And then you meditate on those universal laws day and night. That code for that is that yin and yang, the 12 laws of the universe. We're talking about like, this is like the order, this is how we code information. We just now releasing this shit to the public. It ain't nothing that you couldn't have found out on your own. I mean, it's just information is spirit. But that's just like when you're looking at the book of Psalms, and then you don't have the Solomonic keys. with the book of Psalms, like these are all things that come together. This is stuff that you would learn, obviously, back in those days, this was stuff that was heavily, heavily guarded, heavily. Just like me telling you that even if you look at the teachings of Yeshua and you study the Emerald Tablet, or the Nag Hammadi text, and Tahuti's writings, does it not sound similar? That's because they're from the same brother order. You're just now telling the public this, though, but because anybody could study it and know that. Okay, so let's keep going. This person is like a tree planted by streams of water. That means that you don't fold. This person is like a tree planted by the streams of water, which will yield its fruit in its season. So now that you understand those 12 universal laws of the universe, and you have meditated on it day and night, and the contrast and the duality with them, understanding that you are not going to be among the wicked, that you're not going to be among the mockers. You are solid like a tree. This person is planted like a tree by streams of water. Okay. And as we know, a tree is a conduit. It's kind of like a quantum computer that can process high levels of information by streams of water, higher consciousness. That'd be the age of Aquarius, to break it down, which yields its fruit in its season. And so when it's time for you to blossom, you're going to blossom. When it's time for you to strip down your leaves and be bare and go through your hibernation and settle down, you're going to go through your ebbs and flows. That's what that means. When it's time to blossom during that season, your fruit will yield. And when it's time to take that step back, that's what that means. But you're patient. You're not running around jealous. You're not running around trying to, you know, steal somebody else's destiny and stuff. You're like a tree planted by streams of water. You're fruit in this season, and your leaf will not wither, and whatever you do shall prosper. So now that you understand that you're just like that tree planted by streams of water, you are now a walking quantum, highest level of computation of information, just like how trees are, understanding how to be grounded within this earth, just like a tree is, and communicate with the crystals within the earth, just like how a tree does. And your leaf will not wither, even in the seasons. Um, yeah, even when the winter comes, I guess you're going to still have some leaves, and whatever you do shall prosper. But not so the wicked. They are like the chaff which the wind blows away. Therefore, the wicked do not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. Now, this one is the for the wicked. I think so I'm looking at the Hebrew version of this. Not standing in the judgment. I gotta. I guess we can go back and probably. Maybe I'll do it later. Nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For God watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Well, that's just the way of the denial of the universal laws of God, and those 12 laws of the universe. Now, for those that are studying on a higher level, then if you could really see like the singularity of information, then you could see clearly how the 12 laws of the universe and the yin and yang symbol, how it matches uh this Bible verse, Psalms 1. Um, I want to look at the Orthodox. I want to look up because I know that one of those words in Hebrew did not translate exactly to judgment, and so that kind of throwing me off because I didn't read it that way. Because again, there's a very much a ruha, like it connects so much to ether. It's when you're reading these verses in terms of the spirit. And I don't read it from a religious perspective, so to speak. Mishpat. Okay, so mishpat. I was just looking at this word, justice. There we go. I said that doesn't lead to judgment. That verse that word that did it translate. So when we say that don't stand in stand in the way of the judgment, that is supposed to that translates to justice, fairness, equity, impartiality, restorative justice. So that's how you're supposed to read it. I'm like judgment. Yeah, so should not stand in the judgment nor sinners, and yeah, so mishpat is justice. Okay. And for community of righteous ones. Okay, so that's the community of righteous ones. So this is moral and ethical behavior. And honestly, the universal laws, the 12 laws of the universe, universal laws of God, meditating on them, understanding, even obviously for those that are more religious, they probably are looking at the 12 commandments and not the 12, but the 10 commandments and whatnot, or whatever supplemental materials that you believe in, maybe, whatever religion you are. But that's how that translates to. Let me read Psalms 1. And so that's that for today. I do want to start our little show. I do have to say we're gonna start with a skating, and then we're gonna remove it off of YouTube for copyright reasons. But we are going to. I want to show nice little skating video to end it with, just for just to lighten up the mood. For those it's Friday night. A lot of people gonna be probably going out. And, maybe I don't know. It's raining a lot, right? It's been raining. So I wanted to do with this one. Yeah, let's do some skating. Let's do a skating video, and then we have a set by Tall Black Guy. We also have a set by Tay6, and then some other cool stuff. But I was thinking, because I wanted to do a poetry video, but I just don't know if this would pick up as far as the copyright, or we should probably do it after I remove it off YouTube, because I want to be a little smarter with the YouTube as far as playing videos and stuff. But yes, let's just do the skating video first, and then I'll remove it off YouTube, and we'll continue on the other, because we're still on Rumble. So play this.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
Team me up, Tech. 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 Team me up, Tech.
That's amazing. They killing it. This brings me so much joy. I love watching people skate. So forgive me. This brings me so much joy. I mean, they killing it. I really enjoy, for one, I love that song, and I like what they did with the remix, but like, I thoroughly enjoy seeing people like do their little skating. And I was just telling myself, I'm like, damn, because, I don't know how to skate. And I'm like, how would I, learn? I can't go to these type of arenas because I'm gonna slow everybody down. So I'm thinking like I would have to go to like a kids, one of the kids skating rinks, like where they have the kids and they can practice and I would have to literally I would be in the kids section because I cannot skate. And I would be literally on the edge of the walls going back, like trying to skate. How they, holding the wall. That's like my level of skating ability. Like I would have to be, how they got this thing right here. I would be holding on to that, falling on the floor, having to have help and stuff. And so I wouldn't go to, the Cascades or some shit like this or Memphis. To one of these type of skate. I would have to go to one of the kids' parties. When I was a little kid, they used to have a lot of kids skating in Buffalo. And so I would have to go, go to some kids skating ring, and then and bust my ass and get kids to laugh at me, whatever. While I'm trying to learn how to skate. Lord have mercy. But man, this is awesome. I love this. Sound probably. Yeah, because I will get a copyright for that once I have to. Yeah, but this is the sound. Actually, I guess we'll stop it right here, and then I probably just would take it off of YouTube. I think that's the best bet is to stop it right there and then take it off YouTube. That way we can play it with the sound once we remove it. That's what we'll do. So if you're on YouTube, we will still be on X and Rumble if you guys want to come over there. Love you guys. You guys have a great weekend if you're on YouTube. We're about to remove it.